All right, this is lesson 10 of Zero to Hero Governance and ALM in Power Platform. Today we have my friend Raphael for his second lesson. Last week we call, I don't say it, meaning that the contents of the lesson was by any means low, but it was our zero level, if you will. Getting everybody on board when it comes to Power Platform, ALM, using GitHub. But today, I think things will get crazy with the hero level of the lesson. So, Rafael, thanks so much for being here, donating your time and your expertise. Take it away, my friend. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation, Victor. It's always a pleasure. Try to find the right screen. Please confirm me when you see my screen.
I see it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So, still me, still Raphael Pothin, like uh, last week. Still Microsoft BizApps MVP and still passionate about Power Platform and DevOps culture. And you can find me on social networks if you want to have a chat around these topics or anything else. Um, it's a great week because yesterday GitHub Universe started. So it's a big GitHub conference. So a lot of announcements since yesterday, and it will continue today. And one of the big announcements that has been made is the fact that one feature that was a paid feature until today, provide now a free tier. So GitHub Code Spaces allowing you to code in the cloud directly. So you don't need an amazing computer to code using GitHub now. You have 60 hours free per month, and you would be able to enjoy that. So I didn't talk about this feature last week because it was more a paid feature, but now I wanted to share with you this great news. Um, Last week, just like Victor mentioned, we covered, I would say, some basics around our topic. So obviously GitHub, we explore the main parts of the platform, so how to store code, how to manage your backlog, how to automate everything, and also how to secure and keep the quality of your configuration and code at a good level. And we also went and a little bit around Power Platform CLI and CLI tools, command line interface tools in general, and discovered an overview of GitHub Actions and for Power Platform, and also the repository maintained by Microsoft. And today we will try to go a bit deeper around Power Platform ALM with GitHub. So I will show you how I updated the repository we created last week. Added some configurations, also added some configuration on the Power Platform side. So we'll go through all of that. And then once we will have covered the overview of the configuration, we will go through a small demonstration, and I will be able to go a little bit more in details uh, into some configurations I've prepared. So, preparation for the demonstration. The first step, when you do, and I'm sure you covered that during previous sessions, the first thing to do to configure when you want to do some ALM, some automation around Power Platform is to configure an application user inside your environment. So I will just go quickly through the key parts of this process, um, and we will go to the next step. So to To configure an application user inside the Power Platform environment, you will need to create first what we call an app registration inside Azure Active Directory. So here I am on the app registration page, the one I created for the demonstration. You will have key information we will need later. So what we call the application or client ID. What we call the directory or tenant ID. So you will have the same tenant ID for all the app registration on the same Azure Active Directory tenant. And then you will have some secrets. So you will need to create some secrets here. And don't worry, I will delete these secrets after the demonstration. So you will be able to create some secrets, provision them here. You can choose your expiration dates, and then you can configure on the other side, where in GitHub or Azure DevOps. For this demonstration, I prepared two environments. So I have my default development environment, type developer, a great one, where you can go in S2S apps and where you will find your application users. And if I'm not wrong, here is the one I added to my environment. And you will need to add to this application user the system administrator security role to be able to import, export solutions. And I've done the same on another environment I created, trial one, but I call it production, where I added the same app registration as an application user because it was easier. Obviously, in your organization, depending on your rules, your compliance rules, your policies, you will perhaps have different app registration for your different categories of environment. So a specific one for production, perhaps the same one for dev, test, and things like that. I will just this one here in case I have questions. So we have two environments with an application user configured with the system administrator role. The next step will go inside GitHub. In GitHub, in the repository we created last week, so 0 to Heroes live under my profile. Last week we created one simple hello world GitHub workflow, okay, with nothing fancy, just a command to write hello world to provided first name. And for this demonstration today, I created two other workflows. One for exporting a solution from a dev environment, and the other one to deploy a solution to production. I will not enter inside the workflows right now because during their execution in the demonstration, I will have some time to go through it. We'll go to the next step of the preparation. To be able to connect from GitHub to our Power Platform environment with our application user, we need to set up some secrets inside GitHub. And to configure secrets in a repository, you need to go in the Settings tab. You will then have on the left a Secrets section, and you need to enter inside Actions. We will cover the part above just in the next step. Currently, the one we want to cover is what we call repository secrets. So you can access these secrets from any workflows, for example, and you can, if I'm not wrong, also use these secrets inside GitHub code space. And The secret I configured are this fourth one. You have your application ID, your client secret, your tenant ID. Three informations we got from our app registration inside Azure Active Directory. And we have the environment URL of our development environment. So to add a new secret, you can click here on New Repository Secret. You enter a name, you enter a value, and you click Add Secret. Simple. And you will see when we will go through the workflows how you can use it inside your automation. Next step, we can configure a GitHub environment. Environments are accessible under the Settings tab. You have Environment section. And here you see I already created my production environment. On environments, you can configure protection rules. So for example, you can have a reviewer for your deployments. When, in my case here, when I will try to deploy my solution to production environment, I will get a notification, the prompt in my workflow, and I will need to manually approve the deployment. You can add wait timer if you need to wait time before your deployment. You can also configure branches. So for example, you can say, I want to deploy from to production only if my workflow is triggered from my main branch. And the last part is that you can have secrets. And in that case, you can use, for example, the same workflow with the same secrets name and target different environments. So you will use the same secret names, and each time you will select a specific environment, for example, QA or validation or production. GitHub will select the values of the secrets of the right environment. So it gives you a great way to separate the secret you use for different environments. And one last part is the branch protection. Sometimes, and it happens often, you don't want to push changes directly to your main branch, because if you make some mistakes or things like that, you will break your code and your configuration inside your main branch. So you will create a short-term lived branch for your work, and then you will create a pull request to come back to your main branch. And it's what I've asked here, is that I want to have a pull request before pushing my code to main. And it forces a little bit your workflow. Do we have a question? Just checking here. Not so many people, so perhaps not so many questions. So I will continue. Our demonstration is pretty simple. I will take a solution, our zip package here on the screen, from a sandbox or development environment. I will execute a workflow to export and unpack this solution inside my GitHub repository. I will create a pull request to merge my changes into my main branch, protected by a rule. And when these changes will be merged inside my main branch, it will automatically create a new package from the main branch, pack everything, and push it to a production environment. So let's go. We'll try to make it work. without a demo effect. First thing, I will create a small issue just to describe a little bit. Few components to new solution. Take it here. I will assign it to myself. I will add an enhancement label just to categorize a little bit my work. And I will say submit. So here I can have some discussions with people, with the people I'm working with, just to finalize the plan. And when I'm ready, I can create a branch. In my case, with my team, we decided to use pattern one template for the branch name. So I'm creating a branch on my repository. I like this default value that will just show me a pop-up, and I create my branch. I come back here just to verify I have my branch, 2 branches, everything seems okay. And now I will go inside my Power Platform environment, my developer environment, in a solution I initialized, and I will just add a few things. We will stay pretty light here. We just want to show the details. Okay, so we'll add, for example, a new table. Demo live. Very simple. Then we'll try to also add an environment variable. Okay, so I have my table. Come back here. I will add an environment variable. Live env variable. Okay, choose an option. Text. New value. Saving. Save. Here for environment variables, the imaging value is only configured on this environment, so we would see that it will not be taken during our deployment. We'll try to add a small app. No. Oh, 0 to 0 live. Phone, create. So you can take this time just to ask question if you want. It's perhaps a less interesting part, but I will try to make it quick. Text label here. 0 to 0 5. Live. Okay. Always save and publish. And the last thing we will try to do will be to configure a cloud flow. Okay, and okay, commission. I need to do that more often. Yep, I will lose this one. Simple cloud flow. To answer the question in the chat, yeah, you can, and I am assuming here under DevOps, you mean Azure DevOps. So yeah, you can do pretty much the same with Azure DevOps, but few things will change. For example, the way you build your automation, the way you manage your backlogs, the security quality features are a bit different in GitHub if you compare it to Azure DevOps, but at high level, it's the same. List rows, and we will just say, we'll take 0, demo lives. Yep. And save. So yeah, with Azure DevOps, you will use the Power Platform build tools or other great tools on the market. I think you got some demonstration from people from the community who build. It's a warning. We will not stop there. So you will be able to achieve the same, but the way you will do it will be a bit different. Okay, so I have. Okay, don't do. Okay, we'll just add something here. A connection reference, because I already had one on my environment, so it took it, but it will not be inside. Okay, connector, Microsoft, Dataverse, and I have one. Okay. So I will need to change just here the connection reference used inside my Cloudflow. So I will be able to have a standalone package, not depending on something that is already on my environment. And here, let's see what we roll live, if I'm not wrong. Yep, and I save. So I think we are in time. I will now be able to trigger my, so I have everything, a table, an environment variable, Canvas apps, Cloudflow. Yeah, everything seems great. So I will go back inside GitHub. Just check again the name of my branch. And I will go inside the Actions tab. Here I find again my two GitHub workflows. I will select Export from Solution from Dev. And the way I configured my workflow, I'm able to trigger it manually because for the export, it's easier. So I would say 1, because it will automatically identify the branch I want to work with due to the pattern I'm using, work / a number, so 1 in my case. And then I can select the solution I'm working with. So here's the name you see here. It's I would say the logical name, not the display name of your solution, but the logical name. And then I will run it, crossing my finger. And during this time, I will just show you something really cool. If you press on the dot on your keyboard during a few seconds, it will open a VS Code in the web experience. So here you will not be able to run commands inside VS Code. It's not GitHub Codespace, it's github.dev. So it's another experience. But if you just want to go to check some code, things like that, it can be great. I will zoom a bit because it's definitely not cool as an experience. I will add this part. Okay. And we will just check that the workflow is running, cross our finger, and we will go through the code during this time. So here you have the export solution from dev workflow definition, I would say. Here you have the configuration of the trigger for the workflow. So it's a manual trigger, what we call in GitHub workflow dispatch. and you can enter then some inputs. And as you have seen in the previous screen, you have two inputs, issue number and solution name. And solution name is a choice, so you need to select one of the provided values. So for example, in the future, if I add one new solution managed in the scope of my repository, I can just come here, add the name of my solution, and I will be able to run my automation. And I didn't show you that, but currently the solution I'm exporting is not already in my repository. So we will initialize the solution inside the repository. I have another one, but it's not the same. So here we have the trigger. I just initialize what we call an environment variable with the prefix of the branch the name of the branch I want to consider inside this workflow. And then I will configure jobs, so different units of work, I would say. And in this workflow, I will have just one job. We'll see in the next one, I have more than one job. Okay, so here I define on which kind of machine I want to run my code. So it will be on a Windows machine for some reason. I can tell you after that because I have not been able to make all my code, my custom code work on Ubuntu, but it's because I'm not great at Bash. I'm better with PowerShell. Then I will check out my branch. So I will go inside Git in the branch I want to work with, so work/1. Then I will use, and here, yeah, just to mention, you have, here it's how you access and you use environment variables, so dev branch namebase. And here it's the syntax to use the inputs, so issue number you can find here. The third things you can access outside of your workflow are the secrets we configured earlier in the demonstration. So application ID, client secrets. So here is how you define, I want to use the secrets I configured inside my repository. So the first thing we will do, we will publish the solutions on your, publish customizations on the environment, the dev environment. Here, the URL. Next thing, we will export the solution. We will export it as unmanaged, and we will export it as managed. To be honest, I don't like to export the solution in both ways. I prefer to export it as unmanaged and then use another environment to import as unmanaged and export as managed. But if you just have two environments, it's the easiest way to do it. So you export one zip for the unmanaged solution, one zip for the managed solution. So you need to change the name. Then you unpack both solutions. So you specify here the type, both. You will overwrite the files in the repository. And also, I want to unpack the Canvas apps. So I don't want to keep only the MS app file for the Canvas apps. I want to have a clear visibility. Then what I like to do, but it's my personal point of view, is to, I don't really care about the version I have inside my repository. So because I have all the versions, all the changes inside my Git history. So the version I have in my solution XML file is not really important for me. So I just clear the solution version inside the solution XML file. I put 1.0.0. And we will see later for the deployment what I do with it. Then I install on the agent I'm using for the workflow, the Power Platform CLI, to be able to create what we call settings, deployment settings file. I remove the zip files because they are in my folder, and I don't want to commit these files inside my repository. And last step, I push everything inside my branch. So I want to see the changes. And I'm happy because I see a small green check here. So it seems everything worked as expected. So if you go in the workflow, you can see some details regarding what you have here. You can check if everything was okay. So it's a great way to debug if it's not green. So here, if we go in work one, we will see that under solutions, we have our 0 to hero advanced demo solution. And if we go under configurations, we have one folder for our solution. And here, if you are not familiar with the deployment settings files, it's a great way to automatically configure your environment variables and your connection references. So the idea is that you will put one value inside your environment variables, and you will put a connection ID here. So what I can do is that I will try to update this this value directly. Just want to get my Dataverse connection. Oh, I don't have a Dataverse connection on this environment, so because it's clear one. We'll wait. Time it takes. Okay. Change branch, and you will see that you can also clicking again on the dot key on my keyboard, and here I will be on the work one branch. So I change branch, and I will try to prepare okay, can I have one? Nope, nope, you don't want to. Okay, here, so I am in my work one branch. I will try to configure my deployment settings file. Again, I think my laptop is doing some noise like a plane, so I hope it will work. Okay, can I have a connection, please? Yep, great. Just move this one here. Is it okay? Yep. Okay, so I have my connection. Okay, I will just try to refresh. I will here put a value. Production. Yeah. Okay, this one is okay. I want to get the idea of, I think this one is the idea of. And you can see here that shared common data service for apps is the same name you find here. So it's the type of connection you are using. And if you don't believe me, we can make a search here. So I have a connection ID. I have updated the environment variable value. So I will just say update deployment settings file. And when you are in this experience, you don't even need to push your code. So just what we call stage your code and do a commit is enough. Because here I am in my work one branch. I will refresh and I should see the new values. Okay. So it's a great way if you just want to update text files without doing some build, some common executions. It's a great way to go on github.dev for your repository to make some updates. If you want to execute commands and you have some tests to run and things like that, you would need to go inside GitHub code space or clone your repository locally. So we have made our changes. I think now it's time to deploy it to production. So we will try to do that. I create a pull request. Going through pull request tab, it will show me that I have changes to merge. Create pull request. You can change the name, add some description. I strongly encourage you to do that. You can add a label on it. Create pull request. And then because I linked my branch to my issue, when I create a pull request from this branch to the main branch, GitHub is able to identify the issue I'm coming from or I'm working on. So now I can review the changes inside files changed. I can take some time to share some feedback with the team. And when everything is ready, someone or myself will approve and merge the pull request. So confirm the merge. We delete the branch. Can I change branch here? Okay, so if you click here on the name of your branch, you are also able to change branch directly from this screen. So we will be able to we'll wait the execution of the deployment workflow. You perhaps have seen quickly that the number of open issues went from 1 to 2, because when you close a pull request and your issue is linked to your pull request, it will automatically close your issue. So we'll wait, I will say. It will take some time to deploy. And during this time, we will go through the workflow I configured for that. So the architecture of the workflow is still the same. So I have a name here. It's the same I see on my Actions tab in my repository. And I have a trigger. Here, the trigger is different. It's not a manual trigger. It's a trigger that say that when there is changes pushed to the main branch inside solutions folder or configurations folder, but not for these files, the workflow is triggered. I have another environment variable here that will just say my solution version, the major part is 1. And then I will run some code. The first thing I do is to identify, and here we are not talking about Power Platform code, we are talking about PowerShell code. I try to identify which files changed to identify the solution I need to deploy. So I do not say deploy everything. I just deploy the solution that has changed. I will check out my branch, so the main one, which triggers the workflow. I will use this open source action to check all the change files. And then I will go through the output of this action. So change files, here it's the idea of the action. The output, all change files. So I will go through all these files and try to identify the name of the solution that has been changed. At the end, I will display the name. So for example, if we go here, oh, it was quick. If we go here, you can see that I have all these files that change, and the name of the solution that has been changed is 0 to your advanced demo. So obviously, this means that if you use this kind of mechanism, you need to include in your pull request only changes regarding one solution. Okay? If you try to update many solutions at the same time, you will have issue on this part. But if you are able to update only one solution for each pull request, you don't need to specify things here. the workflow will be able to identify what changed. Okay, so I will go back here. If you remembered, I configured a protection for the deployment to production. And here I am on the step where the GitHub workflow want to deploy the solution to production. So I'm asked to review and approve the deployment because I'm one of the reviewers. I can click here, select the environment, click approve and deploy, and it will continue. So here, yeah, the code to identify the solution which change. The next job is to build the solution. So it depends on the previous job because I need the solution name. It runs on Windows, and I will do some steps. So I will check out the content of the repository, the main branch. I will build, I would say, the solution version. So I take the major environment variable, so it's 1. I take the current date in this format, and I add the run number. Next step, I update the solution inside the solution XML file. So I take my environment variable here, I put it in the solution XML file. I pack the solution as managed, because here we are going to production. And I push the managed solution, the zip file, I push it into an artifact store. I've seen the comment, I will go so here's one VS0. Okay, I will go to this one after. The last job, the one running currently, is to import the solution to production. So it depends on both previous job, pre-job because I need the solution name output coming from pre-job, and build manage solution because I need to wait for the zip file to be created. Here it's the new part. I'm saying here that I'm considering for this job a specific environment, so the production one. I want to deploy and I want this job to run for the production environment. And it's adding this part that will prompt for the review for the deployment if I have rules. I will run this part on Windows, check out the repository, the branch. I will extract the managed solution, the zip file from the artifact store. So here I push the zip file into the artifact store, and here I get it back. Because you need to understand that each job is running on a different machine somewhere. So they need to communicate in some way. So they use the artifact store to pass some information. Here I will import the solution into the production environment. So I get my secrets, client secrets, tenant ID. Because I specified the production environment, the secrets I'm getting here to import the solution are the one I define under my environment inside the GitHub settings. They are not the same I have inside my export from dev. Here we are in the environment scope, so specific secrets. I have some configurations to try to improve a little bit the import, and I specify the deployment settings file we used or we configured earlier with the environment variable and the connection reference, the connection ID inside the connection reference. So it's automatically configured directly inside the import step. And the last one, here it's a custom one. I will automatically turn on all the cloud flows in my solution. So I have a small PowerShell script for that. You can see it here. So you have some fetch XML queries, and you need to get all the cloud flows. And then for all the cloud flows, I will try to activate them. So for example, if you have child flows, you need to activate child flows before you activate the parent one. So I will even do a loop to be sure that I will activate all the flows during the deployment. And it's what can take a while. We will check where we are currently. So here we are on the steps post-solution import, so go through the cloud flow and things like that. Do you have questions? I said last week that I will let a lot of time for questions, but because I don't have many questions, I took my time to go through all the configuration. And here it's green. I'm really happy. 2 lessons with 2 demonstrations green. It's amazing. And we will try to check if we have everything here. So I created the connections. I didn't add my solution inside my environment. So you can see here that that's been created 4 minutes ago. So I'm not lying. Here it's, oh, we are the 10th already. So here is the version of my solution I dynamically created during the deployment or for the deployment. And if we go inside the solution itself, you should see the Cloudflow turn on. Yep, it's turned on, not lying. And I'm not sure I can check the default value. So production. Are you happy? I am happy. So because I had in my plan to show all these different components and set up everything inside less than 1 hour. I thought it was perhaps a bit crazy, even if I prepared some parts before the demonstration. So I'm really happy and excited to see everything worked as expected, and I hope you are too. So that's almost all. I'll just finish. So with what I've shown today, you can manage your configuration, your code, and your ALM with 2 environments with GitHub. So you can, as a repository is public. So if you want to try, you can try. You will just need to configure the secrets and things like that. But you can try it. But we still have things to do. The first one I didn't include it here is that, for example, if you want to share the Canvas apps or give permissions on the Canvas apps to a group of people using an Azure ID security groups, you will need to also include steps post-deployments to production. You have some example of code inside GitHub. The other part is currently we don't have validations on our pull request to check the quality of our solution with Canvas apps testing and things like that. And if you want to add code, it will be the same. You will need testing. So the next step will be to add some validations on pull request. So there are triggers you can configure inside your workflows to be able to, when you create a pull request or make changes inside a branch with an active pull request, it will automatically check things. So execute the solution taker, run Canvas apps testing, for example, run code testing. Next step, if you want to do PCF component developments, you will need to add other things around what I've shown today, but it's doable. I've done a presentation in Tampa last weekend where I've shown how to automate things around PCF component development. Also, Dataverse backend code development, so we will be in .NET if you want to use your plugins, code, push your code inside GitHub, automatically run things, you can build that. And last step, if you want to extend your Power Platform applications capability using Azure services, you can do that. You will just need to add more automations and think more clearly about your repository organization. So it will be clear and easy to navigate, but few steps if you want to extend what you have seen during this presentation.
Raphael, you make it look super easy.
No,
Oh,
each time it's the same. I had the same feeling and the same feedback in Tampa, but here you need to see that I think there is some luck around it because when you have demonstration working like that during
oh yeah.
multiple events, I can tell you there is some part of luck. Uh, Work for sure, but some part of luck too.
Yeah, we have one question from Nati, Turtle Dove. And it was a similar question or comment that I had last week. Okay,
Yeah.
you have the tool set in Azure DevOps that essentially can do a lot of what you showed here.
Yeah.
When to choose and how to choose between the two.
The answer will be the same that that last week. So it depends on many things. If your company is currently using Azure DevOps and not GitHub, you will not be able to say, "Oh, I want to use GitHub because I prefer it." So if you are in a company, you will need to use the platform you have available or the
Mhm.
one which is allowed. Um, for, I would say, learning and open source work, personally, and it's just for me, I would recommend GitHub. Uh, Moreover, with things like the announcement I shared with you made yesterday, GitHub Code Space available for 60 hours per month for everyone. Um, you can create repository, you can collaborate with people from the community. You can create a repository. If you have a question, you don't know how to do it, you can just make a tweet, give the link of your repository, even the line of code where you have an issue, and people will be able to help you. If you go in Azure, I've mentioned that last week, I know there is an option to create a public Azure DevOps project, but I never find an easy way to discover
For sure.
Azure DevOps public project. So if you want
Mhm.
to do things in public, if you want to learn in public, and if you want to build solutions in public, from my point of view, GitHub is the way to go currently for Power Platform development. You can do that with GitLab or things like that because it's a similar platform, but you will not have the out-of-the-box tools like Power Platform Actions and things like that. You will need to build everything from zero using the Power Platform CLI and things like that. So it will be more time consuming.
Okay. And then in terms of cost, Raphael, do you see a big difference between the two? Because I saw you building the workflows and all that, and I remember a few months ago, not maybe a year ago, when I was building pipelines, when I was experimenting pipelines in DevOps, it asked me to have additional
Storage?
yeah, things like that. I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was exactly. There was a way to ask them to unlock that particular feature,
Yeah.
but then it asked me for additional services, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have the details because I'm not a licensing guy, even for Power Platform. Don't ask me question about that. But I know that both platforms have a free tier with, I think, all the capabilities you need to start. Um, I never, because for example, for workflows, you have some limits too. You cannot run workflows all day long during 1 month for free.
mhm.
And myself, even spending a lot of time in GitHub and running some workflows for test and demonstration like that, I never hit this limit. So I think it's more for if you have a startup and you want to run a business and try to run it for free, it will not work. But if you are one person alone, I think it's difficult to hit the free tier limit. Um,
Mhm.
Based on what you said for Azure DevOps, you have still some things to consider. For example, on Azure DevOps, I know that in the free tier, if you are not careful with the retention of your artifacts, the solution zip you generate, and things like that, you can hit the limit of storage you have. So you still have some configurations to adjust to be okay. Um, both of them if you want to be great with ALM today, I think you need to understand and to try both of them.
Okay.
Because I mentioned that last week. At work, I'm working with Azure DevOps, so I need to continue to learn on Azure DevOps with Power Platform. But on my personal work, and because I think perhaps it will be the future GitHub, I invest a lot on my personal time to learn GitHub.
Okay. All right. Anybody else who is on the call that has questions, or maybe people who are watching this later? If you have questions, you can look for Raphael's profile online on LinkedIn and Twitter. He's pretty active there, and also pretty active supporting the community. So, um, okay, Nati has another question. Last one. Can this work for cross-tenant deployment? I believe you can because you're setting up the connection onto the
Yep.
repo using those secrets.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have your dev environment on one tenant and your production environment on another tenant, you will just need to configure the app ID, the secrets, and the tenant ID and the URL at the right place. So for example, if you have many environments using the same application ID and things like that, you can configure it at the, I would say, the root level of your repository. I've shown it during the demo. And then for your production, if it's on a different tenant, you will configure things under as secrets under your environment itself. But GitHub, because GitHub is not linked to one of your tenants from an infrastructure perspective or many perspective, GitHub does not care where you want to take your solution or where you want to push it.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Rafa. Thanks everyone
You're
who was
welcome.
here. Whomever's watching later, if you have additional questions, let us know, please. All right. Have a good one. Take
Have
care.
a great day. Take care. Bye.
Safe,
Rafa,
safe
thank
trip
you
to
so much.
Paris.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.